Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:30 and note members present, plus staff and the radio. The mayor and CAO are out of town on a convention, so they send their regrets. I'll read the land acknowledgement and we'll carry on. We will begin this meeting by acknowledging that the gathering on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people since time immemorial. We would like to recognize that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, and the land on which we are gathered today is traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. Specifically, we acknowledge the neighboring community of Mishwekatan First Nation, for whom we have great respect. We also recognize the contributions of all Indigenous people, including the Métis, in shaping and strengthening the community and province of Ontario. Next, number 2, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Hearing none, we will move into the next item, approval of the agenda. Do I have somebody that can move for the agenda? Councillor Cannon and a seconder. Councillor Opato, thank you. Item number 3. Oh, I think I just did that one. No, sorry. Item number 3, did I jump one, Sue? It's okay, I'm on 4, thank you. Item number 4. We have a presentation this evening by Mr. Ian Callum from S. Burnett and Associate Limited on the Draft Water and Wastewater Management Plan. Good evening, Mr. Callum. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thanks very much.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Callum, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much, councillors and staff. I guess the purpose tonight, we've been doing a fair bit of work since last summer with your staff on creating a water wastewater master servicing plan, EA. And in terms of sort of where we're at right now with this EA and this study is that we're looking at having a draft final report prepared by the end of the month, and and then after our last PIC meeting, after that, we'd be looking at finalizing this report. We do need to get something out at the end of this month to meet a funding deadline, but after that, we're going to be looking to finalize this report in the coming month afterwards. So before we put a draft final report out there and before we went to the public with the results of this, the goal was to bring council up to speed with the work that we've done so far and to get your input and to make sure that basically this report is reflecting the wishes of council before we take it to the public and finalize the report. You can ask me questions during the presentation, or you can wait till the end, whatever your preference. So in terms of, actually, hang on, I'm gonna, sorry, I always forget to share my screen here. Okay, can you see my screen now? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So the purpose of the study that we started back last summer was to evaluate the current and future water and wastewater requirements for the municipality of Wawa and to create a plan for the infrastructure to meet those requirements. The structure that this EA followed was that of a municipal class EA, and it followed similar to a Schedule B EA. It followed the phase 1, phase 2 before moving to phase 5 implementation. We did do our first PIC just before the holidays. And we've been evaluating alternative solutions, different ways of meeting the future needs of the community. We've assessed your existing infrastructure, and really where we're at is we're on the verge, like I said earlier, of being ready to bring our recommendations to you both yourself, well, ready to present to yourselves and almost ready to go to the public and agencies with our recommendations. So the steps we followed in putting this study together were to assess the current water and wastewater infrastructure, to project future infrastructure needs, including the need for future housing, as well as for additional industrial space. We looked then to identify different alternative solutions to meeting current and future need. We evaluated the alternative solutions that we came up with and selected some preferred solutions to move forward with. And throughout this process, we've been consulting with First Nations and Métis. We've been consulting with agencies such as the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry on species at risk. And we had, like I indicated earlier, our first public information center and preparing for our second one in the short coming. In terms of assessing infrastructure, in August, we sent our engineering staff. Steve Burnett was out on site to walk around your facilities to get a sense of your current infrastructure and to look for what any sort of operational issues that you were having, speaking to your staff as well to gather information on those items. We then did some baseline modeling of your water and wastewater systems to see if that identified any other issues that should be looked at. And then once we had our list of infrastructure upgrades or things that needed attention, we provided costing, high-level costing for those, and then we prioritized those infrastructure needs as shown in that chart below in terms of immediate and high infrastructure requirements that dealt with health and safety, emergency response, or critical equipment redundancy. We had a category of medium needs that dealt more with improvements to system functionality, operational efficiency, or reducing costs. And then the rest of them fell into a lower level of priority. And that sort of helped put those three buckets of needs sort of helped us or allowed us to sort of give you an idea of when these would need to be done. Like for the high and immediate needs in the immediate to 2-year range. For the medium ones, it could wait a bit longer and it's in the 2 to 5 year range. And for the lower ones, 5 years or even later. And that's sort of, once we provided the costing, it sort of helps the municipality understand when those costs would be hitting. So that visit there, we came up with a list of 48 different infrastructure upgrades that we were recommending over the next 10 years. Some of those recommendations already have funding, and a number of other ones have already been addressed through, you fix those on your own since the time that we did our visit in August. So the remaining unfunded upgrades that haven't been addressed already came to a total of $2.6 million. Just over 900,000 of those dollars would be in the next 2 years timeframe. The remaining bulk of the recommendations, or at least the costs associated with them, at 1.6 million, is in the 2 to 5 year range, and then a small amount of a small dollar figure attached to the remaining recommendations would be 5 years out or longer. Just didn't want to walk through the whole list of 48 with you here today, but I thought it would be helpful to at least show some of the bigger ticket items or the bigger recommendations that we're making. One of those being the looping of water mains along streets like Maple, where they just terminate and there's dead ends and there's a lack of flow in those areas, stagnant water. So that would address that issue. We'd be looking at addressing inadequate slope in the wastewater system, which currently is requiring you to do a lot of maintenance and flushing work. We'd be looking at some inadequate pipe size from some of the lagoons, some inadequate reservoir storage at the water treatment plant, and several fire hydrants at dead ends that don't have adequate flow. And the last two items are relatively new items that were highlighted that came up through our baseline modeling work. So that kind of addressed the current snapshot of where things are at today. For the next step, we needed to project out what your future infrastructure needs might be looked at. And to do that, we looked at your historic population, which is reflected in the chart to the left of the slide there. And we also highlighted just some of the major sort of economic events that were happening around the times where there were some significant changes to the population in the municipality. And as you can see in the chart, and as I'm sure you already know, the population is generally flatlined over the last past 10 years or so, with very little change in the population. That said, we did take into consideration the economic, some of the economic growth in the area, in the mining industry, and the new owner of the particle board plant, and the possibility for some of this increased economic activity in the area to cause some changes in population. And from there, we came up with a number of roughly 200 people joining the municipality in the next 10 years. If it's less than that, there's a lot of flexibility in the approach, but really the test here that we're looking to do is, can the infrastructure that we're planning support that growth? And do we have enough growth areas with infrastructure planned for those areas to support that growth? So from there, on the residential side of things, we identified initially 8, but in the consultation, we were asked to add area 8 just to the west of Tamarack Avenue there, to consider that option as well. And then in addition to these 8 options that we're looking at here, we also looked at one location further south along the highway outside of your municipal current settlement area. On the industrial side, just across the road from the treatment plant, we highlighted this potential area as one area of potential industrial growth, as well as the area just up off of Government Road, the currently already disturbed area here, as another potential area for industrial growth for the community. So we did a pretty in-depth analysis of the different residential areas, and I guess the way we're looking at that is that we would pick as many of the top-ranked residential areas as you need to get to that 200 number, and then you would stop. And like I said earlier, if only 100 people join the municipality in the next 10 years instead of 200, that cutoff line just sort of moves up. And especially with a big area like Area 3 here, that could be, I think that's Churchill Phase 5, if I'm not mistaken. That area could be developed in phases depending on growth and the speed of growth in the community. So Area 7, up by the existing daycare facility, was the top ranked option, largely driven by the fact that there was a low cost of servicing that area. It's already disturbed, gives you a good deal of flexibility in terms of being able to put an apartment unit or something like that in that area. I will note that your 2017 housing report did highlight a high need for 1 to 2 bedroom apartment styled units rather than single detached homes. So Area 7 just was a really good fit, and that's what drove it to the top, as well as the fact that it's already disturbed results in very low environmental impact. Areas 4 to 6 here along Regina, Maple Street, and Birch. It's sort of a continuation of the existing housing development on those streets. We are already recommending the looping of the water main along all those streets, regardless of whether you proceed with these housing developments. So there would be no additional cost required for those for units to be developed. I'm sure you're all aware that a private developer has, I guess, needs to be able to develop his units before these units are able to be brought along online. So that is considered, I guess, a little bit on the, you'll see that on the next slide, how we reflected that in our consideration. Area 1 is fully serviced and adjacent to existing residential. Area 2 requires water main extension, so that pushed it a little bit further down the list. Area 3, the big large area there, would give you up to 83 lots, which would basically almost single-handedly deal with your potential population increase, but obviously clearing that area has a higher environmental impact. And Area 9, as down to the south, has the highest cost because it would require its own septic system, and also being a treated area, a forested area, would have a higher environmental impact. So from there, we actually came up with 2 different scenarios depending on what happens with the private developers' lots and when they get developed, if they get developed. So the first scenario shows those lots being developed, I think, and is included in the number to get to our 200. So under that scenario 1, you would have areas 7, the private developer lot, and those are number of people, not number of lots there that we're adding up there to get to your 200 number. Our basis there was to use a population density of 2, which is a little bit under your current population density of 2.2. And we figured that was a good way to just sort of come in a little under your current situation to reflect the need for 1 to 2 bedroom units that might have a lower population density. So yeah, you'd be looking at areas 7, the private developer lots, 4, 6, 1, 2, and a portion of the 83 lots in area 3. And then the second scenario would allow you an option to move forward if the private developer, if you needed to develop lots before the private developer lots were able to be developed, or if they never got developed. That would allow you to get to your 200 number by developing areas 7, 1 through 3. In terms of the industrial area, I guess our evaluation came up with them scoring pretty close, out of the 4 criteria of technical, environmental, cost, and social, they each came out with 2. So rather than choosing one at this point, at the end of the day, before the report's finalized, I think it's in our interest to choose one of these, which one better fits where the municipality wants to go with this. But rather than decide before coming to this council meeting, I thought it would be a good idea just to present it as it is, with both of those areas coming up pretty neck and neck, and get input from council as to which direction is best to go in here. In terms of the technical criteria, area 2, the one on Government Road, requires a pumping station, which would be, I guess, a bit more of a technical endeavor to put there. And because it's at the start of, it's at the very start of your wastewater piping system, depending on how many industries or the volume of wastewater and water that you're putting through the pipes. It could impact the capacity and all the pipes downstream as it moves through the town to the treatment plant. So for that reason, it's a more technically complicated option for you. In terms of environmental, obviously area 1 has to be cleared of trees, whereas area 2 is disturbed. In terms of cost, basically mirroring the technical issue because of the increased technical issues and the need for the pumping station that would drive up the cost of developing that area. And in terms of social, you'd have some loss of recreational trails in area 1. And we also had some studies cite that it is upwind of downtown. So depending on what type of industry you put in there, it could cause some nuisance issues on that front. So area 2 was considered preferred from that point of view. We then looked, I guess, just in turn with either of these areas being developed, we looked at different scenarios in terms of what happens if you just developed the residential areas. What would the impact on water, wastewater infrastructure be? And then we looked at the second scenario of residential with some industrial upgrades limited to, I guess, in size, just so that they didn't require any major infrastructure upgrades. And then residential with a full industrial build out of the 2 areas we looked there. And as you can see in the table here, residential only upgrades are limited to the previously discussed list of 48 minus the ones that you've already done. So no issue with either of these areas if you only went with residential. If you move to some industrial development on the either of the lots in industrial area 1 to the south, you have infrastructure upgrades limited to no change there, no additional upgrades required. But like we said, with the government road option, you start encountering minor water and wastewater capacity issues and bottlenecks and less developable area than area 1. And those issues, especially with area 2, get a lot more severe if you move to a full build out of the industrial area, where you're going to get several water and wastewater capacity issues and bottlenecks. So that was the high level cut at the work we've done and the recommendations we're making. So I will open it up to questions now.
Are there any questions? Kathy, go ahead.
Good evening. I was just wondering, have you identified all areas that are considered dead ends in town?
There were additional dead end areas adjacent to that area 7 as well that we were also, I can pull it up on a map here, I can share again. Where are we here? Yeah, the map cuts off a little bit here, but near that area 7, like along Churchill Avenue and the streets to the east of that, there were also some dead end issues identified with that one that we're also recommending addressing.
So you'll be able to tell us then what are the best options? Like, are you saying then?
Yeah,
if it has.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, regardless of whether that's developed, it would be a good idea to loop those ones as well. And we are recommending that. And like we were saying, if you didn't proceed with that, you probably still could get away with, you might be able to service 7, but we are recommending from an operational standpoint to loop those ones as well.
Okay,
and
thanks.
I can show that we can provide the final report will have some maps showing that in greater detail.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? Councillor Cannon, go ahead. Councillor Hoffman, would you put your,
I'm looking at industrial and the area number 1. When you look at the Google map here, that seems like a pretty rugged area to be putting industrial in. And it seems like that might cost a lot more money than putting it over where the old plant used to be.
Right. No, that is a good point. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll go back to our engineers who provide the costing and just do a double check on that to make sure that they've properly reflected those numbers. And I can give you an idea or send to Becca an idea of how that shakes out with, I guess, site preparation costs versus a sewage pumping station. And I can get you
the
back that.
And the sewage pumping station at area number 2, well, that whole area, that Station Road area where the people live there, they're already, I think, have a pumping station because that's no?
No, it's all low gravity.
So what do you got? Joe?
We have septic tanks,
Oh,
same like it's at the tick.
okay. Okay. So that would be a big cost then to put that pumping station in.
Yeah, I think that how that shook out was that was quite a bit more pricey than the site preparation cost. And again, we're not sure how much of the area one you would be looking to develop. It would kind of like if you could stay away from the areas that had more elevation for the first phase of the industrial development. But if somebody big came in and said we need the whole space, then that would be a different kettle of fish.
Mhm. Thank you.
Councillor Cannon?
Say the industrial area number 1, it could be some loss of recreational trails. Can you tell me what trails?
I don't know the specific ones.
So that would. Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Callum, thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
Okay, thank you very much, council and staff. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. Going on, we have adoption of minutes of a meeting on January 10th. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Hoffman moved. And Councillor Rapato seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Business arising out of the previous meeting. Item number 6. Mishpicot, the canteen operations update. Alex, you have an update for us?
We'll try this. Nope. Okay, so I came to council at the last council meeting with a proponent who had approached me asking about operating the canteen at the community center. On Friday, that proponent got back to me saying that they had lost some staff at their business and they weren't going to be able to do it for this operating season. So we went back to the original report, which I've also provided to council. We stand by our recommendation that we believe an RFP should be introduced in May for the following season to give local businesses the opportunity for the canteen. Not in this report, but something that's important to know for council. We have 4 major upcoming events at the community center between now and Ice Out in March. 3 of those 4 people have expressed interest in operating the canteen as volunteer groups. So we don't have a complete lack of canteen services. However, they wouldn't be services provided by the municipality. So we're going to keep our recommendation as staff in the report, basically saying that we think an RFP is the best way to operate this service in the future. We believe that providing that RFP to the community with about a month lead time in the summertime for the fall is the best way of doing that. And we believe that services will be able to be provided for most of the events for the remainder of this ice season.
Are there any questions?
Okay, we have somebody on staff already that ran the concession before COVID.
Mhm.
And how about her taking over the concession for the remainder of the winter?
Like you said, she ran it before. It's a question of economics. So those 2 years we were at a $10,000 loss.
So you're telling me we're gonna still run at a loss this winter?
I can't tell you what we're going to run it at exactly because it depends on the specifics of how we operate that facility. But based on the numbers that I have going back to 2007 and reviewing with finance staff, staff do believe that if the municipality operates it, it will operate at a loss.
Can I suggest something like being the chair?
I think you can talk.
Okay, okay. Alex, I would like to see the canteen open till the end of the year. How does everybody else feel? I agree. So could you hire somebody and get the stuff available for the end of the year, till the end of the year?
Yeah, so here's part of the steps of doing this. So we would have to advertise for like the staff members to operate the canteen. We would need to order product and we would need to get that spun up. I believe I said, yeah, in my report that the earliest we'd be able to reopen the canteen if council directed us to do so was the Family Day weekend. Also, the budget right now for the canteen is zero, as per the last council approved budget. So I would need a resolution from council with a budget for that facility. We've estimated in the staff report that we would need $8,000 or so, if my numbers are right. I'm looking at Manuela.
Sorry, Alex.
Mhm.
We're into the 23 budget, so the 20, which has not been passed, so we would not need it.
Not need a resolution? Okay, there we go. I stand corrected.
So to open the canteen, you need $8,000.
That was the budget estimate that we had discussed for the operating budget. If we just opened it for the next couple months and then went to an RFP in May, that would be reduced.
I can speak to that. It's not just the cost of the product. We have to pay the employee. There's the possibility of paying OMERS because everyone is entitled to OMERS now. Any other benefits, so Canada Pension, WSIB, all of those things, electricity to run the equipment that's in there. There is no inventory, so oils, condiments, product that you're going to sell, like all of it has to be brought in. It will, I'm sure it would be 8,000, probably a little more.
But it can be done.
It can be done. Yes, we can do it.
Yeah, and that's based on council's direction. It's a service level, and I need obviously the budget to do that, which I haven't had.
So how do we get the budget?
I believe the budget will be presented in February, so I can add it to the budget.
So we have to wait for the budget before we open?
No?
No, I mean, we're operating as a municipality, so we can move forward with the direction of council to include that in the budget, to include the canteen operations in the budget.
We have a person on staff right now.
We
that-
still have to advertise the position because it's been closed. That position's not been filled for several years. We can't just appoint a person. We have to have a fair process. So everybody has to have the opportunity to apply. We can't say to anybody on staff, start tomorrow. We have to go through the hiring process.
And you figure you could still be open by Family Day
Family Day weekend, yeah.
with a person running it?
With a person running it, with product in. We've mothballed the facility, but that doesn't mean that nothing's been maintained, right? We've still maintained all the fire suppression equipment. We've still maintained all of the canteen equipment. So that was my estimate, was Family Day weekend,
I think that.
February 18th, 19th.
We also need to keep in mind, just because we have a person on staff that's done the job before, there's no guarantee that that person wants to do the job again. So until somebody's discussed it with that person, which I'm sure nobody has, we don't know that that it would be
Yeah.
filled by that person.
I've talked to her.
But we have to go through the steps, right?
Absolutely, we have to go through the steps.
So for tonight, what can I go ahead with? I'm not understanding exactly. So we, as council, we put in a motion to open the canteen for February.
Normally, this would go to the regular meeting of council and it would be done through resolution.
Mhm.
Because we weren't expecting an action on Alex's report this evening, we don't have that. So you can give direction to start the process and advertise the position. And I think we'd make note that this is against the recommendations of staff, but council chooses to go forward and make the recommendation to open, and we can start the hiring process and have something ready for the February 7th meeting.
Does that sound fine?
But we need direction, so I guess you could do is it a verbal motion too? Is it a direction? Hiring.
Of the canteen.
Okay, so the business arising out of your report tonight is to give you the go-ahead to start the process. And on February 7th, we will pass everything. Am I understanding this right?
I believe so.
Does that sound fine, councillors?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Alex.
Understood. Thank you.
New business. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just would like to clarify, is this for the period of time from now to the end of March when the ice comes out, or for the entire year? Are we still looking for an RFP in the fall to try to run? So it's just the interim for this next
Yeah.
couple months and an RFP to try to fill it in the fall?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
If nobody applies or they back out again, then we'll have to look at it.
New business. Accessibility status report. Manuela, would you like to speak to this, please?
My mic on. This is an annual report. It's a legal requirement. It was prepared by the CAO, Maury O'Neill. So it's a legal requirement under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. The report's completed each year. It outlines the efforts that we put forward to improve accessibility within our community. Some of the things to note, if council's had a chance to read through the report, some of the activities that we did in the last year. We provided an annual AODA training to all our staff, council members, and committees. We did a road and sidewalk assessment, and audits were completed to determine what accessibility upgrades were required for our roads and our sidewalks. We installed additional handicap parking on Broadway Avenue. We updated our AODA policies and practices and ensured that staff had training on those updated policies. There's several others. I'm not going to go through them all. We also made plans for 2023. So we're planning to begin in 2023 to review and develop a 5-year accessibility plan. We're going to continue training the staff, committees, volunteers, council. We're going to increase use of online customer portals and electronic billings to make information more accessible. And I guess just in short, the recommendation of this report is to accept the report and have it posted on the municipal website.
Are there any questions from council? Thank you, Manuela.
You're welcome.
7.2. The Phenom Conference, council interest. This information is for upcoming Phenom Conference on May the 8th, 9th, and 10th in Parry Sound, and to see if any members of council have any interest in attending. The municipality policy states that the mayor and 2 members of council may attend the Phenom Conference. Any other conference attendance is the mayor and 1 member of council. Are there any interest? Mr. Opato? Mr. Hoffman, are you interested?
You going? Okay,
And I'm interested. So they'll have to pick.
okay, no problem.
Mayor Pilon is not here this evening either, so we don't know if there's interest from Mayor Pilon. So it would be the mayor and 2 councilors if she's interested.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch can go then.
I mean, they can just pick, put the names in a hat. And if something comes up that one of us can't go, then the other one can. And if there's any interest in a resolution, will be brought up in February. Okay, 7.3. Manuela, you're up again for schedule of fees.
Okay, thank you. So the schedule of fees is something that we review annually as part of the budget process. We review it and update it and bring it forward to council. So some of the things that we looked at were the needs of the municipality, best practices. We looked at prices around other communities. We referenced the water, not the water financial plan, sorry, the long-term financial plan that was done by Watson and Associates, and put together our schedule of fees. So we're recommending that it be adopted at the February 7th council meeting. This gives council a little bit of time to review it, and if they have any questions to come back.
Are there any questions to Manuela?
Sure. We can, because our goal is to pass it on February 7th. So if you have a question today, I'm happy to answer it.
I just wanted to know the airport fees, they didn't change. Can you tell me why they didn't change? Like I'm assuming that the left-hand side is the old prices.
The left-hand side is the old prices, including taxes. So I'll let Becca speak to the airport fees. We did discuss it. I had that question for her as well, but
Like we have more traffic and everything at the airport now, and
Yeah, so we did, Dan and I did a quick review of other local municipal airports, and looking at our fees, we were on par for this year, if not a little bit higher. So we thought maintaining those fees seemed appropriate for 2023, and then look at them again for 2024.
okay, thanks.
Thank you. 7.4, landfill compactor purchase of diesel engine. Manuela, you're on.
me. So few weeks ago, Dan came to me because the engine failed in the diesel compactor. This is a big piece of machinery that we use at the landfill. It was purchased in 2018. It was purchased used for a price of $203,000 at that time. So it's only, to us, it's 4 years old. So the cost to replace that motor was $60,000. The cost of a new used compactor is between $250,000 and $300,000. So by replacing the motor, we're extending the life. We're estimating the extended life will be 10 years. It was considered an emergency purchase for several reasons. Our landfill is pretty much at capacity, so if we don't compact that garbage, we're going to be in a big problem. So there's a public health concern there. There's a space concern there. Also looked at extending the remaining life of that asset's not too old. It's just something that happens. So we were able to really mitigate costs and extend the life of the assets by going ahead and purchasing the assets. So this is really information. It will get included in the 2023 capital budget and be brought forward when we bring forward both budgets.
Are there any questions?
For Dan, that compactor in the new garbage dump, is it going to be used in that cell?
New compactor? Yes, it will. It takes care of the cell compacting garbage. Yes, it does.
So you'll still be using a compactor?
Yes, we will.
Thank you, Manuela.
You're welcome.
Okay, 7.6, monthly reports for November and December. If Dan is here, can we ask Dan to speak to it? Oh, 7.5, I missed it.
Not that I want to speak more.
Oh, just a minute. Staff report, water and sewer study financial plan. Sorry, Manuela.
That's okay. So not the plan that we watched tonight. That was the Water Master Plan, which was done by SBA. This is the 10-year water financial plan, which was done by Watson and Associates. So if you remember back in December, they presented to us the rate study. So they did a rate study for us, and they looked at what our assets are, what the requirements for our assets are in the future, what our expenditures are, what we're estimating them to be over the next 10 years, and they presented that to us in December. We agreed with their recommendations in December and instructed them to go forward and create the 10-year water financial plan. This is a requirement under legislation for water under the Safe Drinking Water Act. Sorry, not my forte. It satisfies the requirements of the modernization grant, so we can close that grant off. It also identifies methods by which to set funds aside. It meets some of the priorities of the strategic plan that we did with the Wayfinders. So our recommendation is to adopt the municipality of Wawa water and wastewater rate study, and to secondly adopt the Wawa, the municipality of Wawa 10-year financial plan for the waterworks.
Are there any questions, councillors? Manuela, this will be done on the next regular meeting, right? It'll be passed?
Will be adopted tonight.
Oh, because I
We should at the regular council meeting.
a resolution to receive and approve the water study and resulting financial plan will be on the next regular council meeting.
Which is tonight.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm on the, okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. When it said the next one. Okay, monthly report for November, December. Dan, I think this is yours, or Becca, whoever wants to talk to it.
Okay, Mayor and Council. So we're coming with you for our report from November and December. We had, in November, had some decent weather, so we managed to get all of our equipment winterized. Mishwakottan First Nation donated some sand from their Tremblay Flats Road project, so that was used by us when needed. The sand has a mixture of roots and topsoil, so it made it for great cover at the landfill, so that was a good resource for us. When weather and temperature cooperated, we maintained the gravel roads. We continued to haul sand from the municipal aggregate pit, again for landfill cover. Early snowfall meant that we were plowing and sanding sooner than what we kind of anticipated. But then with winter operational night shifts, we started those in early December, and those will be until mid-April or until the snow clears up. In terms of water services, we winterized our hydrants. We attached hydrant markers to make sure that they didn't get hit during winter operations. We worked on the water treatment plant, patched up some of the leaks in the feed tanks for the filters, and just started getting ahead on some of the small electrical things that needed to be done. And finally, we were searching for that third water operator who could fill up our ORO position, and we were successful in doing that. So our new operator comes with us with both level 2 in water and wastewater, both collection, distribution, treatment. He originally got his experience in the district of Muskoka, his career took him out west, and his life has recently brought him back to Northern Ontario. And so we are now in the process of getting those licenses flipped over from BC to Ontario, which is a fairly straightforward process. And there's an equivalency thing throughout the nation or through Canada that if you work in one province, it's pretty easy to go your licenses one way or the other. So capital projects, with the cemetery expansion, we've got Tulloch Engineering putting together a cost proposal for phase 1, and we're going to be putting out a design build RFP hopefully soon to get started on that new half of the site. Landfill expansion, we're about 90% complete. Signage just got put up actually the past couple days. So we're looking at doing a grand opening in the summer. I don't know what's going on with this mic. And then the municipality, so we're going to have a big opening ceremony and sort of educate the public on how to use our new site. We've got the rate study and financial plan. So that was in the past couple months, and of course, moving forward with the resolution for that today. the master plan. We held our PIC in November and December. Lots of work going on with the hydraulic model and collecting of data from our end. And then finally, they will be hosting a PIC shortly and seeing the sort of final draft of that document. And then the water intake project. So Crescent Engineering has begun the Class A process for that. So Indigenous consultation is underway. We're going to keep trucking forward, hopefully with construction starting soon. And then finally, our forecast for upcoming January, February. We're going to continue to maintain the roads with the snow, keep the sidewalks plowed and sanded. We're going to work on the capital and operating budgets with the finance department, begin implementing the projects we've identified with you guys through the capital and operating budgets, and then again, start working on previously committed projects for 2023.
I have a question, Becca, Dan, whoever. Now, we have a day shift and a night shift, right? So when there's no snow at night, the guys do other things?
Well, there's no snow. We still haul snow from streets, blocks, boulevards, sidewalks, or we maintenance equipment.
That's what I thought. Thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay. Thank you, Becca. Okay. 7.7, Alex, we have a report of the month, November, December from you.
So I'll just go over the highlights of the report, and then please feel free to just jump in with any questions. So the biggest thing that happened in November and December was working on the south hallway floors. Our staff did all of the floor removals, and then a contractor came in and did the installation. It was a really bad time to do that project. We had it scheduled for the summertime, but unfortunately the flooring didn't come in until after Thanksgiving. So we had to do it during the season to make sure that we got it done before the end of the year. So we went room by room. It took a lot of our capacity to do those floor removals. It's not something we're typically used to doing while we're in the operating season, but we got everything done just in time for a Christmas shutdown to do the hallway itself, which obviously we couldn't have anybody in that whole side for that time. So that was finished. Right along the same lines, we received our curling pump finally. We received it just before Christmas. So obviously that's not something to install in the operating season. So we're going to have it at the facility, and we're going to install it as part of our summer plant maintenance through the rest of the season. So that is all of the capital projects that we had to do. So a little bit of carryover with the installation of that curling pump, but everything else was completed for the season. I'm also really happy to report that we have recovered from COVID in terms of how many hours of programming that we're hosting at the community center. So you can see by the graph I presented in 2019 during the same period of time, so November, December, we had 808 hours of programming at the facility. Today in 2022, we had more than 1,000, just over at 1,001 hours of programming at the community center for November and December. So we're really happy to see that bounce back even past those 2019 levels. We expect that some of that was because the NOHA scheduled a pile of their games at the information. So now we're in back and forth with NOHFC. They're asking us for some supplementary documentation, things like that. But we're hoping for a funding announcement in the spring to see if we were successful in those 2 applications for the community center. And then for future outlook, obviously Winter Carnival is the next biggest thing coming up. And obviously we're still starting to plan now for Ice Fishing Derby. So we've got some bigger events coming up in February and then the start of March where it gets really hectic with fishing derbies, Tournament of Champions, bond spiels, all the end of season stuff. So right now we're doing a lot of the admin preparation for those things to happen in our community in the next couple months. Any questions?
Alex, do we have any play downs here this winter?
We've got Tournament of Champions, which is kind of the same thing. They just call it a little differently now. Yeah. So
Is it midgets?
it is U9s and U13s this year.
Oh, peewees? Is that peewee? A peewee to me?
Yeah, Pee Wee.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you very much, Alex. Okay, Becca or Dan, can you speak on the 7.9, the fuel at the airport?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Sorry, it's. I got a memo for the Marina Committee up next.
Oh, sorry.
What did I do? I missed one. Oh, a 7.8, is that what you're saying, Dan? Okay. Thank you. Alex, thank you very much.
Okay, so this one is a pretty easy one. We had a couple stragglers who didn't apply before the deadline to the Marina Committee, who have now expressed their interest, giving us enough people to pass quorum. So as we discussed at the Lance Council meeting, we'd likely be coming back to council, making sure that people are interested. And so obviously we have some interested people, so we do recommend as staff to have that Marina Committee.
Oh, yeah. Is this working?
Test, test.
But it's usually me because the microphone.
It's usually your voice. Yeah.
No, they were hearing
That-
you and then all of a sudden
Oh, it
stopped.
just cut out.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they were hearing you, no problem, and then it stopped.
Is that deep?
It is- Yes, it is now working, yes, it's now working. It's
Now
working
we're-
now. Okay, go
Working
ahead.
Okay. I don't have anything else to say, really. Yeah. If council's okay adopting the Marina Committee, similar folks who have expressed interest over the past years, and now we have quorum, so.
Thanks, Alex. The resolution appointing the member committees will be on the next council meeting, and that's tonight. Now, Becca, can you speak on the results for fuel at the airport?
So over the past year, Dan and I had been receiving phone calls from different fuel suppliers indicating that perhaps they could supply us with our airport fuel. So Dan and I thought, to provide good customer service to our user groups, that we should definitely look into other suppliers for airport fuel, just out of curiosity to kind of see what is out there. We had 3 official submissions to the RFP for Jet A1 and Avgas fuel supply. A couple of them, one being Avjet Holding Incorporated, based on sort of our approximate usage in the memo. You'll see that they kind of came out at the higher end of their approximate cost based on some of our average fuel consumption. Davidson Fuels kind of came in at the middle, and then Petro Value Products came in a little bit lower than Davidson Fuels. That being said, the 2 other suppliers that aren't local to us do have minimum fuel order requirements, which can make it hard being up here, especially with highway closures and things like that if we need emergency fuel. So we are going to recommend to council that we continue to move on with Davidson Fuels as a supplier, just because of their familiarity with our system, our staff, They've have experience with our actual pumping system itself and the way that we like to order fuel. So, and not having a minimum fuel order really helps us out, especially with the feast or famine kind of access that we have to the airport. So, I guess for council resolution on February 7th, we like to ask council to approve a 3-year contract with Davidson Fuels.
Is there any questions for Becca? Thank you, Becca. Okay. Item number 8, there are none. Moving on to number 9. Business arising from the closed session, there's none. We'll move on to the next item, number 10, meeting date. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February the 7th at 6:30 p.m. Then at the close of meeting, I need a mover and a seconder. Constable, Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Cannon. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Let's just take a minute before the next one, if you don't mind. In the next one. Constable. Do you need something to drink, Manuela? Okay. Call the meeting to order. Did I have to close the other one? I'm sorry. 7:30? Okay, so call the meeting to order. Members present. Call the meeting to order at 7:33. Members present and heads of department and our radio personnel. Any disclosure of a pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we're moving into number 3, approval of the agenda. Manuela,
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Opato. Resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 be approved as presented.
all in favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations, seeing none, we move on to number 5. Announcements and giving of notice. There are no announcements. You will see there are now dates for upcoming committee meetings if you want to go through them all. Like there's a cemetery committee, heritage committee, economic development, all those committees, all the on the agenda is all the times and dates. Adoption of minutes.
So moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that the following minutes of the meetings of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a special meeting of council held on Saturday, January 7th, 2023 is contained on pages 1 and 2, inclusive of the minute book. Minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023 as contained on pages 1 to 10, inclusive of the minute book. Minutes of the special meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, as contained on pages 1 to 2, inclusive of the minute book.
All in favor? Carried. Correspondence. Item number 7, correspondence, seeing none, move into number 8. Consent agenda. Seeing nothing, moving on to number 9.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive staff reports a copy of which is attached here to CAO 2023-01, 2022 Accessibility Status Report, MB 2023-04, 2023 Schedule of Fees, MB 2023-05 Water Rate Study and Financial Plan, DB 2023-01 Reports for the month of November and December 2022, AP 2023-01 Reports for the month of November and December 2022.
All in favor? Carried. Business arising out of previous meeting. Item number 10. Seeing none, move on to item 11.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Opato, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby approve the appointment of the following 5 public members to the Wawa Marina Advisory Committee, and in addition, that there be 1 representative from Ishpocotton First Nation, 1 representative from Evolution, and 1 representative from the Council, for a total of 8 members. Harry Koch, Mr. Clifford Miller, Mr. Harvey West, Mr. Blair Mills, Mr. Matthew Newland.
All in favor? 11.2, Manuela, you have the resolution.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, whereas on December 13th, 2022, Watson and Associates Limited did a presentation to Municipal Council on the Wawa Water and Wastewater Rate Study, and whereas Watson and Associates Economists Limited were instructed to use the rate study to form the 10-year water financial plan. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa hereby receive and approve the Municipality of Wawa Water and Wastewater Rate Study as prepared by Watson and Associates Economists Limited, and that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa receive and approve the Municipality of Wawa 10-year water financial plan as prepared by Watson and Associates Economists Limited.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 12, notice of motion. Seeing none, moving on to item number 13, bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the Deputy Mayor and Acting Clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3569-23 to establish a Marina Committee for the Municipality of Wawa. Bylaw number 3570-23 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 18th day of January 2023 on the 24th day of January 2024. Sorry.
Yeah. All in favor? Carried. We will now move to a closed session. Manuela, the resolution, please.
Moved by Councillor Rapato, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that this committee proceed in camera at 7:39 p.m. in order to address the following matters: legal issues, offer to purchase property, a proposed pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board under the Municipal Act, Chapter 25, Section 239, subsection 2C.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Item number 15, business arising out of the closed session. There are none. Moving into number 16. Next meeting date is Tuesday, February the 7th at 6:30 p.m. I will now close the meeting at 8:02. And Manuela, you have the resolution? Thank you, everyone. Oh, all in favor, sorry. Almost made it. Thanks, everyone.